Children, have you seen any invisible man? And do you think or this chapter is inspired by it? Yes, the chapter we are going to do is related to it. This story is about a scientist who invented one drug. Let's find out that he used that drug for good purpose or a bad purpose. For that, we have to do the summary of this chapter. So, here the story begins. Footprint without feet. It means it is a story of invisible man. The person is not visible, but his footprints were visible. Let's see what is going to happen in this story. Children, here's a summary of the chapter Footprints Without Feet, written by H.G. Wells. Two boys were surprised to see fresh, muddy impressions of a pair of feet. They were the imprints of a barefooted man in the middle of London. The boys followed the footprints but could not see the person who was leaving them behind. Still, they kept following till the muddy impressions grew fainter and eventually disappeared. These astonished boys were actually following a scientist named Griffin, who had made a series of experiments that had led to the invention of some drugs which could make a man's body invisible. Griffin was a brilliant scientist, but a lawless person. His landlord did not like him and wanted to get rid of him. To take revenge, Griffin set fire to the house, swallowed the rare medicine for invisibility, and became transparent and solid like a sheet of glass. He then undressed himself because the medicine could not make his clothes invisible. Having done that, he rushed out of the house to escape being caught. Griffin now was a wanderer without any clothes, belongings, or money. Invisible and transparent, he was walking down the street of London in the bitterly cold weather of mid January. In order to escape the chill, he walked into a big London store. After the store was closed in the evening, he clothed himself fully by breaking open the boxes and wrappers and take all that he liked. He then had a hearty meal followed by sweets and wine that he stole from the grocery. After this, he dozed off to sleep on a heap of quilts. He got up late in the morning after the assistant's arrival in the store. On seeing the employees, Griffin rushed out and removed all his clothes to escape successfully under the cover of invisibility. However, without clothes, he was again exposed to the biting winter cold. He rushed down to the Drury Lane, the hub of London's theatrical world, to get some clothes from a theatrical company that would cover up his face. He entered a shop, went upstairs, and soon came back with a bandaged face and forehead. He wore glasses, whiskers, and a false nose. Do remember a false nose to give his invisible face a shape. He also wore a large brimmed hat to cover his head. In order to get money, he attacked a shopkeeper from behind and made good his escape after robbing all his money. Griffin wanted to avoid the London crowd, so he boarded a train to a village called Iping. He went to an inn and rented two rooms. Soon his strange and uncommon appearance made him the talk of villagers. Mrs. Hall, the landlady of the inn, tried to be friendly with Griffin, but He brushed her aside by telling her that he wanted to be alone as he had a lot of work to do. He also told her that he had recently suffered an accident and did not want to be disturbed. The lady did not bother much about her strange guest after that, and he had paid her money in advance. She left him alone, believing that he was a strange fellow with a vicious temper. However, very soon Griffin ran out of the money that he had stolen in London, but extended his stay by telling Mrs. Hall that he was expecting a check any time. One day, very early in the morning, the clergyman of the village and his wife heard some noise and chink of money coming from their study. Arming himself with a rod, the clergyman crept downstairs and ordered the intruder to surrender. However, to his surprise, he found the room empty. The and his wife both searched everywhere but did not find anyone in the room. Surprisingly, their desk had been opened and there was no money in it. Meanwhile, the owners of the inn were very early risers, were surprised to find the door of the strange man's room wide open. Ordinarily, it used to remain locked and bolted all the time because their strange guest would lose his cool if anybody entered his room. The open door at this hour made the owners curious and they entered the room to investigate. They found that the bed sheet was cold, which suggested that the bed had not been used for quite some time. In addition, the clothes and bandages of their strange guest it lay scattered all over the room. Suddenly, there was a commotion, and Mrs. Hall heard something pass by her ear. All of a sudden, what happened? The hat on the bedpost sprang and hit her on the face. Then the chair flung towards her. She and her husband rushed out in panic. They were frightened, and the door behind them suddenly shut with a slam. Mrs. Hall was certain that some spirit was haunting the room. The news spread very fast, and the villagers suspected that the strange scientist was the culprit and some magic was involved in the entire affair. Suspicion about the theft at the clergyman's house also fell on the scientist, as he had just paid his entire dues in cash. The village constable was informed secretly about the matter, but Mrs. Hall did not wait for his arrival. She rushed into the strange man's room and demanded an explanation from him about her chair. She also asked him to explain how he had suddenly sprung out of the locked, empty room. How just came inside? The infuriated scientist startled all the villagers who had gathered to confront him. He suddenly removed his bandage and makeup, sending shock waves to the people who were stunned to find a headless man. Jeffers, the constable, who had an arrest warrant in his hands, tried to arrest the headless body. However, he could not do so because the scientist had removed all his clothes as well and had thus become invisible. All efforts of the constable to nab the invisible man failed, and whoever tried to help him was charged with fists and blows punched from the air. Because he was invisible, the constable fell down unconscious, and nobody could catch Griffin, who took advantage of his invisibility to escape. So, this is a story about a scientist who used his immense potential for a destructive purpose. And this is wrong. One should not use this for destructive, it could be used to help others. Griffin has used his invention for the evil purpose, so he became a villain and who is hated by everyone. So, the power of invisibility should come only to those who have a strong sense of responsibility, not to the people like Griffin. Children, I think you all have enjoyed this story. And if any doubt is there regarding the story, you can contact me. Till then, thank you. Have a nice day.